But even when it was a buyer's market and I would be selling a property, I would use that tactic. And I would, we would come back, somebody would offer $170,000. And I would come back with, yep, you know what, 170 is a fair offer. However, in order to sell this property, we need $173,548. And I think what that does to people is they go, wow, he really thought about it. Like that's what they need. Because he was down to the dollar. Like that's what they need and that's what they're going to take. And so when you do that, almost always, if they're willing to come up, that they're going to take that amount.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Are you ready to start investing in real estate today but don't know where to start? Sometimes investing can seem way too complicated, but it actually couldn't be any easier than with homeinvest.com. You know the co-founder and my friend Nate Armstrong. He appeared on episode 20, and if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, episode number 20. Home Invest is a company that allows you to invest in turnkey real estate. Their goal is to build powerful investment tools that make real estate investing accessible to everyone. They have contractors and property managers available for you with the click of your mouse. While other real estate agents can only offer a property, Home Invest brings you a full turnkey package that allows you to diversify your investments, earn passive income, and start building equity in properties. Their simple, intuitive design allows newcomers and experienced investors alike to hit the ground running and to be able to choose the properties when they want and where they want. View easy to understand charts and data to allow you to buy in only a few clicks or just a simple phone call. With Home Invest, you'll be building your portfolio as quickly or as slowly as you would like. And right now, Home Invest is giving our listeners, Pillar of Wealth Creation listeners, a free course on how to finally win in real estate investing. So go to homeinvest.com/pillars. That's homeinvest.com/pillars. to claim your free course today. Hey, welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, as always, Todd Dexheimer, and with me is John Stiles with Bridge Realty. John, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Todd. It's a great day to be alive.
It is a fantastic day to be alive. And hey, after this meeting here, or this whatever we call this thing, a podcast episode? Yeah, that's what we call it. It'll be the day after Christmas. So Merry Christmas to all who celebrated Christmas and enjoyed that time. And it's going to be just a few days before New Year's. So Happy New Year's to everyone as well. And let's have an amazing 2019 for all the listeners. I know I'm going to have an awesome 2019. And John, I know you're prepped and ready to have a 2019 that just kicks some major butt. And hopefully my listeners are there as well. So let's make some major waves in 2019 and get some stuff done.
For sure. Yeah. We are going to crush it.
Absolutely, man. So today,
one other thing before we get into today's topic, if you don't mind, on Saturday, the 29th, I'm gathering a bunch of people to go to what's called Feed My Starving Children.
Ah, cool.
So if you're local here, this is not if you're crazy, but if you're close in the Twin Cities, it's going to be in Eagan. Yep. And it's just a 2-hour commitment, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And what we do is pack meals that go to other countries that are in need. Mm-hmm. And so and this is the second year I've brought people together to do this. And it's a fun time, and it's a great organization to get involved with. So
yeah, awesome, John. That's a great thing for people to do. Definitely a huge need there for that program, and it's awesome that what they do. It's an amazing, actually, when they go through like the video of how many people they're impacting, and just super powerful. So it's really cool. I was a part of it last year. I helped out with your group last year, and it was great. Unfortunately, I can't make it this year because I'll be skiing in the mountains. But we do volunteer for that program and that group quite a few times during the year, and really do enjoy that. So how can people, John, connect with you if they do want to be part of that, if they want to join your group and show up at the same time? How do they connect with you? Is there any way you want them to connect?
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay. Awesome.
And it will basically have an RSVP where you can sign up for our group that we've reserved.
Awesome. Thanks, John, for doing that. Thanks for putting that all together. That's great. So, all right. Well, today's topic, what are we going to talk about?
Well, we're going to do another book review. We did a book review maybe about a month ago, and seemed to go well. And since we're constantly trying to read and learn, discussing what we're reading is a good way to, make sure it really sinks in and share what we're learning at the same time. So, So today's book review is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Yep. Great book. I love that book. A lot of fun too. One of the things I like about the book is he tells a lot of stories, right? So it's not only actionable steps, but he tells stories. So it's really interesting. You get into it, and cool stories too, because he was a hostage negotiator. He negotiated with criminals, and it's just like, wow, some of the stories he tells about what he was going through and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I've listened to the book a few times on Audible, and it's just fun to hear these stories about, he's got some bank robbers and they're negotiating with them, and they've got, all kinds of different people. So just really fun stories and really good actionable steps, I thought, along the way too.
Yeah, this is my fourth time listening to it. I'm working on it again because I can't get enough of it. And I was letting my kids listen to a little bit of it as well, and they were really intrigued by these stories. Couldn't let them listen to all of it because it gets a little above their age level. But yeah, that's one thing that's nice about these type of books. That it's when they incorporate stories that can really help you relate to them.
Yep.
So.
One of the kind of main key characteristics or key points I took out of the book that I really thought was good, among a ton, but one of the things is I think negotiating and honestly relationship building, it begins with understanding and accepting the people who you're dealing with, and making sure you're listening to them, effectively listening to them, not just hearing their words, but actually listening to them. And then the other thing, listening intensely, just really listening intensely, demonstrating empathy towards them, showing a sincere interest in what they're saying, and desire to better understand, what they're experiencing, I think is all things that were really important and key to the points of his book. And then the other thing, with that is you're making sure while you're communicating, for the most part, there is some potential need to be more aggressive, but be more just understanding as you're talking. And while you're talking, just be calm, cool. He talks about the FM radio, or maybe AM. I don't know how he says it, but the radio DJ voice where you're just cool, quiet. This is Todd Dexheimer chiming in here. And we're just quiet. We're cool. We're not getting, really revved up, because the people we're talking to often are very emotional, especially in his situation. So just by being just relaxed and calm, but yet in control of the situation. I think that was some great stuff that I took from it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when we think about negotiations, we think about the other party being our competitor or our opponent. And he talked about thinking about them as your counterpart, or, somebody else that they're not the problem. They're part of the solution. The problem is whatever item you're negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that effectively, you have to have some connection with them. You have to have them feel like they can trust you, feel like they can open up, and let you know what their real motivations are.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And and a lot of us think negotiating is about winning and just trying to beat the other person up. I remember when I first started like this business, I had a quote unquote mentor that was pretty, I would say, kind of a little bit of an unfair negotiator. He was a little brutal. He would also bribe with bribes that he had no intention of really following through with. And so, but with that, it kind of got me into that mindset as well. And it never was like trying to do that is never a good situation. For one, if you're bribing and never following through with bribes, which I never did because I didn't like that idea. But if you're trying to do that, that's just going to give you a bad name in the end. But then just being unfair to people and taking advantage of their weaknesses, exploiting them essentially is also going to just give you a bad reputation. It makes you feel bad too. When you get done with that negotiation, you don't feel like, oh, I won. You feel like, you maybe have that, I feel like I won for just a little bit. And then you go, man, what a jerk. I'm just, that was terrible. And so negotiating is, again, it's about being empathetical to the people you're negotiating with. Is empathetical a word? Having empathy to the people you're negotiating with, and not always just being about the win, I think.
Right. He talks about tactical empathy and using labels to kind of draw out what they are likely thinking and feeling. So in his example, he gives a story where he's negotiating with some, criminals, and they're behind a closed door and they've got guns but they've got him cornered. So he calls out to them and says, you're probably worried about going back to jail. You're probably afraid of, getting hurt. And this was not like sympathizing with them. It's not, getting all feeling, touchy feely or whatever, but it's calling out what they are feeling, their fears, and allows them to, just begin to open up to the discussion.
Yep. He talks about using that as far as like setting yourself up too. Like he talks about if you made a big mistake, saying, hey, I realize you probably think I'm a jackass. I realize you think, I took advantage of the situation, or, you probably think we're the big bad wolf here, and using that as just labeling and setting it up. So, and making yourself out to be like that. And that pulls them back, and you've already kind of compressed the situation a little bit by doing that.
Right. I think he calls that an accusation audit. So, which is related to what he calls an extreme anchor. So as he prepares to kind of push them off balance with a low offer, for example, he's preparing their mindset for something even worse. So you probably think, I'm going to give you a lowball offer, which mentally prepares them for that. And then you give them something maybe that's not such a lowball offer. And then they're like, oh, I guess it wasn't that bad.
And that's actually a good real estate tactic there. You probably think I'm going to give you a lowball offer, and then giving them an offer. It maybe is not, it's still maybe a low offer, but it's not this in your face type offer. And maybe if you said, you probably think you're probably expecting me to give you a lowball offer, just by saying that, your lowball offer now doesn't feel like a lowball offer. Where had you not started with saying that, started with kind of setting up the situation, they would have expected it. A lot of people will try to slam the property first, like, hey, I want to make an offer on this property, but X, Y, Z are wrong with it, and it's in disrepair and blah 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 blah, and knock down the property, and then they try to give a price, and the person is just all pissed off already. They don't want to deal with you now, and their guard is up. They're ready to say no already.
Yeah, another key thing that I took away is the idea of getting to know. Because a lot of times, if we're trained in sales, we're trying to get people to say yes to what we're selling. And so there's ways that people do that. He talks about the salesman that says, "Do you like drinking water?" Well, yes, but what's your point? People don't like to say yes when they don't know what the conversation's really going towards.
Yeah.
But if you can get somebody to say no, that is like they actually feel good about that answer. So I've been, as I've learned that, I've been training myself as I call people, is this a bad time to talk to you right now? Or do you have something like that? So they can say no to that. And usually they say, what's this about? Instead of, how are you doing? Or we've talked about that before, or is this a good time? If you ask, is this a good time? They might say, no, it's not. But if you say, did I catch you at a bad time? I don't know.
If they say that, did I catch you at a bad time? They say, well, no. Now you've got permission to actually start going.
Right.
People are programmed to say no more than they're programmed to say yes. Everybody doesn't want to say yes. Saying yes puts you out of control. No is more of an in control word.
Right.
You're just, do you want to do this? No. Okay. Now you're in control. If you say yes to everything, well, now you're not in control anymore.
Yep. And he really said, when you get to know, that's where the discussion and negotiation can begin, because then you know what's not going to work for them. So if you make an offer on a piece of real estate and they say no to that, well, then that option's not going to work. Or maybe, you need to change something else about, the terms or whatever in order to make that price work.
You need to change something about the terms?
Yeah. Closing date. Are you mirroring me?
Yes, I'm mirroring you.
Why don't you go ahead and discuss that?
I think that's a fun one to talk about, is the mirroring. And as he said, it's like, it's going to be awkward the first few times you talk about it, because it's weird to like repeat something somebody says. But I think it does two things for me. One is that you're thinking about it, and you're actually paying a lot of close attention because you're trying to mirror them. And two, I guess it gets them comfortable with what you're saying. It gets them to repeat that. And I don't know, I'm sure you've read the book a lot more times. What other points about mirroring did he make that you can think of?
Yeah. It feels weird to try to do it, but usually the other person doesn't recognize what you're doing. He even explained a time when he was reviewing one of his employees, and they were going on for like an hour and a half before he recognized that the whole time the employee was just mirroring everything the boss was saying. It gets them, once somebody mirrors you, then you feel like you need to explain further what you're saying or rephrase it. And it feels like the other person is actually listening and paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes them feel like you're listening. It makes them feel like you're validating their emotions. Then you're creating that trust and that safety for that that conversation. Hey, I want to interrupt this episode real quick to talk to you about Nate Armstrong, our sponsor, Nate Armstrong. He's with homeinvest.com, and you want to get to know Nate. So go to homeinvest.com and just connect with Nate, talk to him. learn about his operation, what he's got going on. He's a turnkey provider, and it may not be right for you, but it could be the perfect fit. So it doesn't hurt. It's a free call, consultation, just to figure out, what they do, what they have to offer. And worst case is you're going to meet a great person who's really well educated in real estate. He's done a ton of different real estate strategies, and probably is going to teach you a little bit, even on a short conversation with him. So go to homeinvest.com and connect with Nate's company. You're definitely not going to be disappointed. It's worth it. So thanks, and we'll get back to our show.
What else did you find that was important? Like I already said, that I really like his whole like late night FM DJ voice, where he's, slowly talking, not like super slow, but that, that he talks about that downward, inflecting voice, that keep it calm, kind of just slow, calm voice, and yet be an authority and be trustworthy with it.
Right. The inflection on your voice is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I think one other really good tip I took from it is when you are at a point where you need to say no, find a way to say it without saying the word no. So a huge thing he said was, a huge phrase he used is, well, how am I supposed to do that?
Yep.
So in the hostage situation, when people would demand $1 million, and the family member would say, well, how am I supposed to come up with that money? And that put it back on the hostage taker to think through, well, I got to figure out this problem for the person I'm trying to get money from. And
instead of, if you just say, no, we can't do that, they go, why? Do it. That's what I'm asking for. Somebody's going to die.
Right.
Where if you make them think about it, like, well, that's great, but how am I supposed to do that? Now they have to think about it.
Yep. And so Chris says to say no 4 times. And that 4th time would be when you actually use the word. So the first time he says, how am I supposed to do that? Then the second time is say, I'm sorry, but I just can't. And the third time is, your offer is very, very, generous, but that's just beyond my ability. And then the 4th time, you can actually use the word if you are stuck on that particular, position.
Yep.
So I know just the other day, I was trying to buy something off Craigslist, and it was I think they advertised it for $45, and I said, hey, I could give you $30 for this. He replied and said, I would take 35. And I said, your offer is very generous, but I just can't do that. But thanks anyways. And he replied right away, okay, I'll take 30,
Yep. Yeah. So sometimes, definitely in negotiations, sometimes in real estate's worked very well for me, is to do exactly similar to that, especially to become not emotionally attached. I think is really important, especially in investment real estate. If you're not emotionally attached, by just saying, well, okay, thank you. And don't insult them. Just say, thank you. Unfortunately, that doesn't work for me. Oftentimes they'll come back to you, or oftentimes you can come back to them just a little while later and go, hey, I thought about it. Maybe I can pay you $31. How does that sound? I want to make this work. And oftentimes that'll work because they know that you're not going to pay the amount that they want. They still want the sale. They felt like they missed out on it. And you just come back or maybe even say, hey, I really do want this item. And $30 is where I'm at, and just offering that second time, sometimes that'll work.
Yeah. And that touches on the loss aversion. Like for the person I was trying to buy this item from, they're like, well, I really need the money. So suddenly instead of them having something that I wanted, now I have something that they want. So, and they had lost it when I walked away. So if you can come back to them with another option. And he also talks about when you come back with a non-round number. So don't
Yeah.
I use $30, but if you said $31.50, then they're like, what? And I tried this on a couple family members, just on some play negotiations, and they're like, each time I said this random non-round number, they just totally got knocked off their feet, and they're like, what do you mean? So
that's a strategy I've actually used a lot, John, in real estate negotiations, especially when the market was soft and you could negotiate a lot. When it was a buyer's market, it was a lot of fun because you could negotiate a lot. But even when it was a buyer's market and I would be selling a property, I would use that tactic. And I would, we would come back, somebody would offer $170,000, and I would come back with, yep, you know what, we 170 is a fair offer. However, in order to sell this property, we need $173,548. And I think what that does to people is they go, wow, he really thought about it. Like, that's what they need. Because he was down to the dollar. Like, that's what they need, and that's what they're going to take. And so when you do that, almost always, if they're willing to come up, that they're going to take that amount. And by using non-round, because when you go, you know what, your offer's fair, but we're going to counter at 175. Well, that leaves the door open to me to negotiate, because you just threw out 175. That's not your bottom line price. Where if you said 175, $138, okay, like they thought about this really hard.
Right.
So and with that, depending on how you're negotiating, taking some time between countering is really important. Whether you're sitting in front of somebody or whether it's in a computer, where you're emailing back and forth, or phone calls. I think taking some time, and I don't know if he talks about that in the book, but taking some time and just relaxing. If you're in front of somebody, it still has to be fairly quick. You can't just take 3 hours. But at the same time, if they slide an offer to you or tell you their offer is 170, and you just go, nope, 175, well, you didn't think about that. But if you grab, you get that offer, you maybe jot some things down on a piece of paper, you pause, you think a lot about it, and you go, look, that's a fair offer, but I need $183,275 for this. That's going to make them think, wow, he really thought about that, and that's what he actually needs.
Right. Yep.
What else, John, from the book that you took that you really liked?
Well, there's so much in there. It's hard to retain it all, but I think one thing that I want to be doing more is practicing negotiating with people. So what do you say? You up for it? Should we try to sell a piece of property right here?
Let's do it, John.
I just sprung that on you. Okay, so here's the scenario. I've got a piece of property that I've already told you it's listed at $180,000, and it's a duplex, but it needs a lot of work. And you found a comp that there was another nearby duplex that, in similar condition, needed a lot of work, sold for 140. But I've said I need 180. So and that's one of the things I've said the first offer by listing it. So what would you put as your initial offer?
Well, if you can have a conversation with the person, and actually meet with them, I think that's going to go off a lot better than writing an offer. But if you can't, I think you need to show that comparable, and you need to explain why that's the comparable that you're basing your offer on. And you can also have some terms in there, so like you've done your research and this property is going to take X amount of dollars to bring it up to this condition, which is where these properties are now, selling at. So when they have their $180,000 price, if you can counter by saying, look, I understand that you want $180,000, but the duplex at 2216 Fifth Avenue sold for $140,000. It's got 2 bedrooms per unit, 2-bedroom, 1-bath per unit. It was in this type of condition. You can see here's the pictures, if you could show them that. And there's very similar property, same square footage, and it sold within the last 6 months. So this property is a direct comparable to your property. With that, I'm willing to pay $140,000, or maybe you want to pay less. I don't know, but that starts the negotiations. But by starting that, you've established a range for them, and they understand. Okay, I can. He's compared it to something else with substance. So I think if you can actually be with them and show them that. But if you can't, you can do very similar, where you can email them that comp, explain the whole situation through email, and help negotiate that.
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing about real estate. Oftentimes we have real estate agents or brokers in between us, so we don't always get to talk directly to the buyer seller face to face.
See, but that's a mistake that a lot of people are making, is that that's not necessarily the truth. Maybe we can't talk to them face to face, but if you're a savvy buyer and you've got an agent in between you, or maybe 2 agents in between you, you can still write a very concrete email. Hey, dude. You can still write a very concrete email that you can share with your agent. That's going to, help the negotiation process. If you've got a good agent like you, John, you're going to communicate that directly, with the seller, with the seller's agent as well.
Yep.
Oh, my little buddy got home from school, so.
I just go to surprise.
How about you go get a snack? Can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
So, John, I mean, you've got this house, duplex, $180,000. It's worth 140, 150. You've got a good comp. So that's exactly what I would do. I would go directly to the seller or to the seller's agent. In this case, the seller does or doesn't have an agent.
Does not.
So, I mean, you don't have to worry about that. But even if the seller did have an agent, you can approach it as, if you weren't an agent and maybe you were working through an agent, you could approach it as like, hey, look, I want to have a conversation with the seller directly. Maybe we can set up a 4-way Zoom chat. Maybe we can all meet at the property or meet somewhere else. It's a little harder with like a duplex as it is with like an apartment complex, where it's a bigger deal. It's maybe more important. It's maybe, we got a lot more money we're talking about with the, 200 unit apartment building than a duplex. So it's a little different deal, but either way, there's an opportunity to be able to present it to that seller. And if you can get that opportunity, I think that's going to give you a lot better chance. Now, there is that, I don't know if I want to do that because I just don't feel comfortable in that type of situation, maybe right now. So, okay, well then email is potentially a good thing for you, and you can email and have a good point. But in the email, things do get lost, and your emotions do get lost, which can be good, but it can also be bad. So, email's a semi-effective negotiating tactic. Email allows you to pause. It allows you to cause a reason for concern of the other party. If you don't, get back to them as quickly as what they would like. They wonder, why, and they think, oh boy, I better come down a little bit more on price, or maybe I made a mistake. So those are good negotiating tactics, is delay oftentimes. So
yeah. Before I was in real estate, I had heard that it was quite common for buyers to present their offers in person. They would all meet at the real estate office and they'd all be there for the presentation. We don't see that quite as much these days, nearly never actually. But you lose a lot when you don't see their reaction and you don't see, how they're responding to you.
Mm-hmm.
So in real estate, a lot of times the seller can say, thanks for your offer, but I've got 3 more other guys who want this property too. So, if you're not going to give me a reasonable price, then you can go look for another property. So,
yeah. And again, if you're not emotionally attached, that shouldn't hurt your feelings, right? You need to have, in any kind of business transaction, you need to have a strike price. You need to have, and that strike price is the highest price you're willing to pay. And you need to stick to that. So I used to go to these real estate auctions all the time. There used to be all kinds of foreclosure real estate auctions. And I always came in with a strike price. And I never, ever once went above my strike price. But I would see people do it all the time. They'd get emotionally attached. And it's just like, it's not even necessarily because that property is cute or anything like that. It's just because they're like in that moment and they're revved up. And all of a sudden it's, 80,000, they're raising their flag, and 85, and they're raising their flag, and somebody else is bidding against them. And they were maybe going to stop at, $86,000. And all of a sudden they're at 94,000. And, it's like, what happened? You forgot about your strike price. You got emotionally charged, and now you wrecked your negotiation. Let emotion get in the way.
Yep. Well, I think that just speaks to being prepared and rehearsing what you're willing to say, what prices you're willing to go with, terms you're really willing to go with, and knowing that ahead of time, rather than, especially if you're going to have an in-person negotiation, you really need to be prepared with that ahead of time.
Yep, absolutely. Well, cool. I think that's all we probably need to cover. I think all of our audience should, if they haven't already, listen or read the book, Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss. It's a great book. I need to reach out to him and see if he'll be on our show. Fantastic guest. I've heard him on a couple of the podcasts and really did like him. And that's all I got, John, other than telling everybody, hey, have a safe and happy holidays, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all that other good stuff. So hopefully everybody stays safe and is ready to rev it and do some major damage, in the good way, in 2019.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride with this podcast in 2018, and we hope that all of our audience has enjoyed viewing and watching it. So if you're out there and you haven't yet responded to subscribing and or liking our Facebook page or commenting, we'd really love to get your feedback and know that you're out there. So of course, it's Pillars of Wealth Creation is the name you want to look up either on iTunes or SoundCloud or YouTube, and that's where you'll find us. So
yeah, absolutely. And our Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So awesome, John. Well, I appreciate it, and have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day Saturday, man.
Are you ready to start investing in real estate today but don't know where to start? Sometimes investing can seem way too complicated, but it actually couldn't be any easier than with homeinvest.com. You know the co-founder and my friend Nate Armstrong. He appeared on episode 20, and if you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it, episode number 20. Home Invest is a company that allows you to invest in turnkey real estate. Their goal is to build powerful investment tools that make real estate investing accessible to everyone. They have contractors and property managers available for you with the click of your mouse. While other real estate agents can only offer a property, Home Invest brings you a full turnkey package that allows you to diversify your investments, earn passive income and start building equity in properties. Their simple, intuitive design allows newcomers and experienced investors alike to hit the ground running and to be able to choose the properties when they want and where they want. View easy to understand charts and data to allow you to buy in only a few clicks or just a simple phone call. With Home Invest, you'll be building your portfolio as quickly or as slowly as you would like. And right now, Home Invest is giving our listeners, Pillar of Wealth Creation listeners, a free course on how to finally win in real estate investing. So go to homeinvest.com/pillars. That's homeinvest.com/pillars to claim your free course today.